Alright, so to remove the snap ring, I'm just wedging a screwdriver underneath. However, I am going to turn the video off for the last part because I want to put my hand above here somewhere so it doesn't fly off and disappear on me, because it's easy to replace. But I think you get the idea of how to remove the snap ring. Alright, so it ended up being a little easier than I thought. Just as I tapped it with the screwdriver, this came off of this part here. I know I'm doing this video a little in reverse, but let's see, let's clean this off. I want to put the pieces someplace close by. So do this, and this should just slide off. And the spring. This washer. And all I have to do now is wait for... Alright, I think just by turning this in reverse, should be able to get that to come off. Or maybe not. Alright, well, I've got the new part in. Now this is the old one, and the new one, I think you can already see the difference between the two. Alright, so let me do a close-up here, and I guess I'm going to have to take this unit off to put this piece back on, because I think the reason this one came off so easily and unexpected is because there were no teeth at the top. So it just sort of really just slid off pretty easily. The new one being intact, it's not going to slide down on there easy. So I have to see if I can figure out how many bolts there are to holding this on, take this off. The first thing I'm going to do though is to disconnect the battery. That's right up there. I'm just going to take the power off before I start working with anything down here. Alright, just for safety reasons and because I really don't like getting zapped by batteries, I disconnect the positive from there. Now down below there's the connection there. Obviously I'll have to remove that before I take the starter out, but I like to take a little extra caution and just make sure there's no electricity coming through. I'm going to remove the battery from here. I have this bolt, and then there's one underneath I'll need to get to. I need to position the flywheel so that there's a certain spot where there's a gap underneath that you can get to the bolt. And the idea is to loosen up the bolt, and then somehow, I guess, underneath you push the bolt up to pull this out. Alright, on this Briggs and Stratton starter connection, the power going to, I'm using a 7/16 to loosen up that nut there. And what I'm going to do to be smart is put that back on so I don't lose that. And then the next thing to do now is to get this first bolt and then the one in behind. That will be with a 1/2 inch. And the video I was watching, it talked about looking for the gap underneath the flywheel. I'm pretty sure that's the reason for that is so that once that bolt is loosened underneath there, that there's a space where it can go up so that this can slide out. Now you really can't see under there while I'm working, so I'm just going to turn the camera off, and then when I get ready to bring this out, I'll turn the camera back on. Once that's loose, in order to get the starter out, you actually have to lift that bolt up with fingers to get it out of that connection before pulling the starter out. Alright, so the bolt finally came loose. Actually a little bit easier than expected, and I actually used this to lift it up while I had that in there. So I'm going to get ready to pull out the starter here. It's a little hard to show you in the GoPro. I got my other camera and I got a little better view, but the bolt did come loose, so this should now come out for me. Alright, now it's a matter of getting everything back together here. So this should slide down. There we go. Alright, that seems to be the right fit. And then this spring goes down over that. Alright, I'm going to see if I can get that locking ring on while the camera is on here. Alright, this will be the fun part. Let's see how coordinated I am. Alright, so I was able to get that pin back on. I know it's usually harder to get these things tighter, so what I did after is I grabbed a pair of needle nose and tried squeezing it on the top side there to make sure it's in the groove. So now I was going to put this back on and test out the lawnmower. Let's see if I can first slide this up in here while holding that bolt up. And here we go. I'm going to line that up. Actually, I think the bolt slid down in there, so what I'm going to do is, while that's being held in place, at least get this one started. To hold this unit in place, and then I can work on the one inside, tightening that one back up. Alright, so just kind of a short part of the video. This is the part where it's a little bit tedious, is getting in there and just little by little getting that bolt to tighten back up. I was able to squeeze a couple fingers under there to get it started, and I pulled up on it to make sure that it actually had got started. So I'll finish this up and then resume the video. Alright, so I have hooked everything back up. So we're going to do a test, and let me get my camera in a little bit closer here for you. So what should occur when this starts, that will pop up, get the flywheel going, and start this right up. Alright folks, so everything is working. All I gotta do now is reassemble the cover pieces, and I am ready to be mowing again. So that is the video on the replacement. I think that's called actually a pinion down there, although I call it a gear, on the starter for the Briggs and Stratton